ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Gibson.
I wish we'd had ratings like this when I was on television. When one is invited to participate in the sesquicentennial observance of the Battle of Gettysburg, one is tempted to begin by saying, 70 years ago, but I will resist that temptation. I love Gettysburg. I came here often as a young man, as a student, and as a history buff. And I was always overwhelmed by the serenity and the tranquility of this setting, the gentleness of the hills, the inherent beauty. It seems to contradict the slaughter that occurred here 150 years ago. Without the omnipresent plaques and commemorations and tourists, it would be hard to believe that it was here that such a monumental battle of such savagery took place. Even the Confederates, who had come here to try and break the will of Unionists to fight on, seemed to sense the specialness of place. A lieutenant from Georgia, writing his wife on this very day, 150 years ago, wrote, "Pennsylvania is the greatest country I ever saw. If this state was a slave state and as I was able to buy land here after the war, you might count on living in Pennsylvania." Can you imagine what the atmosphere was like 150 years ago tonight? By the time the armies of North and South reached this crossroads, more than 300,000 had already died in the war. And I always wondered as I walked these fields, what keeps men's willingness to fight so alive in the high likelihood of death? We are blessed with many letters from Civil War soldiers that help explain. Unionists repeatedly wrote eloquently of duty, Confederates with equal eloquence of honor. An Illinois soldier said it well, writing, "We are fighting for the Union, a high and noble sentiment, but after all, a sentiment. They are fighting for independence and are animated by passion and hatred against invaders." Many Confederate soldiers in their letters equated losing the war with themselves being subjected to slavery by the North. The disconnect may seem obvious now, but it wasn't to them. They feared losing the war would subject them to a condition which they subjected on others. It amazes me how many of those here filling these fields 150 years ago tonight were motivated men who understood better than most men in most wars why they were fighting. I've also wondered walking these fields why it is we are so fascinated with this battle in this place. Yes, it was the largest battle of the war, but it wasn't the most costly. Would we be so absorbed by Gettysburg 150 years later had not Abraham Lincoln, in just 10 sentences, so beautifully consecrated the memory of those who died here? I don't know. Maybe it's the debate over whether Gettysburg truly foretold the ultimate end of the war. Historians do debate it. New facts are uncovered, new theories espoused, all leading to further focus on Gettysburg. And of course, the nation's struggle with the issues of the war continues 150 years later. One need only witness this week's Supreme Court decision on voting rights to realize how we still face regional differences, and the decision on affirmative action to realize how we still struggle with issues of race.